What is the meaning of life? Let me rephrase the question. We all want something that proves that our lives have meaning. Something to give us assurance that we matter in this universe. Something to prove that we're the main characters of our story, and that we truly matter. We all want to be the protagonist. You want everyone to know that this is your world and that they are just living in it. So how do you get this assurance to prove that you really are the protagonist of your dreams? It turns out you just gotta carry a big ass sword around. Alongside Einstein's theory of relativity, he also shared his findings, how the bigger the sword you carry directly corresponds to how important the person is. It's just basic math. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning and tell you this story at the time I walked around my college campus carrying around a big ass sword. This story takes place during the first semester of my second year in community college, where I was currently taking 3D design. And it's not what you think. It's not like you making like polyamorous shapes in cyberspace and you learning how to become a cyber warrior. No, it's not that. It was basically like a sculpture class, like intro to sculpture, basically. Like working how to work with your hands and actually making like three-dimensional objects in real life. That was the class. And the final for that class was that you had to make this giant cardboard project, basically. You had to take a small object and enlarge it to a ridiculous size. A lot of people took like small toys, small objects and stuff. But me, I saw this as the opportunity for me to make a big ass sword. Because the whole point of the project is to inflate and enlarge a small object. And I saw that as like, okay, I can take a small sword design and inflate that to make it like a gut-sized sword. This is gonna be awesome. I presented my idea to the instructor, and he liked my idea, but it wasn't necessarily like fitting the agenda of like what the project was supposed to be. And so he kind of basically nudged me into making something else. And I was mad about it, but to be honest, I then worked on something else. But the idea in my head to want to make a giant sword was still there. I worked on another project. I ended up making this infinity gauntlet-like giant fist, and I loved it. But my drive to want to make a giant big-ass sword was still there. My hunger was not quenched, and nothing was satiated until I could actually work with my hands and make a big-ass sword. When the semester ended, I then heard about another class, which is basically like the more advanced version of the one I was already in. It was actually called Sculpture. And in that class, the first assignment is actually the final for what I was just doing. So I plan to enroll on that one, and hopefully I could get the opportunity to make that big-ass sword that I was wanting to make. So that was the plan. I enrolled in the class, and when the assignment came around, I was like, yes, finally I can make my sword. And again, the instructor was a bit iffy on it because, again, I mean, they weren't stingy, but they wanted to, like, I don't know. I had guidelines I had to follow, basically. But the instructor for this class knew the instructor from the previous class, and they pretty much just, like, looked eye to eye, like, okay, this guy clearly just wants to make a big-ass sword, let's just let him. And they let me did, and oh boy, dude, I was so excited to finally work on that thing. I was like, finally! Listen, I was so enthusiastic to finally get started on that thing that I didn't even bother to wait until the teacher actually like have us like sit down and actually talk about the assignments. I just started working on it like day 0. I was like, I'm starting on this thing like right now. I should have started on this thing yesterday. Let me tell you, man, I might as well have been a dwarven blacksmith working on the forge, creating the greatest weapon of all time to kill a god, because that's how determined I was to work on this from beginning to end. It took a few weeks of blood, sweat, and elbow grease to finish this behemoth of a project. And that's no exaggeration. Like, I actually cut myself a few times, I burned myself with the hot glue, and I was sweating to work on this because I was that enthusiastic. Dude, I poured my heart and soul into crafting that thing. And my god, was it beautiful. Towards the end, I just went insane on style. I was starting to run out of time, and I was starting to think I wouldn't finish this. And so on the last couple days, dude, I just booked it. I tried to get as much stuff, much detail, as much of it done as possible. Because, dude, this is like an over 7 foot tall giant cardboard sword that I'm making. In hindsight, I had more time than I thought I did. Because on the last day of me working on it, it turns out that the instructor pushed the due date to next class, which is like the day after the next day. And because like a lot of people actually needed the extra time, but me, like, dude, I went like as hard as I could the day before to finish this on time because I thought the due date was today. So I mean, I was a little stingy, but I was like, hey, dude, I finished it. That's all that matters. Finally came the day where everyone had to have their projects done, and we had to give a presentation on what we made, what we enlarged, and why we did it, basically. And dude, when I went up there, I felt like I might as well have slayed a god. Because, dude, I was so proud of myself for finally making this thing. I had my dream giant sword. And, of course, the whole class gave me a standing ovation for my triumphant achievements for what I just made. After the round of applause, I then got my grade, and the sword just kind of stayed in the classroom for a while, but eventually I was glad to take it home. And that was when the real battle came in. It was me trying to figure out how to fit this giant-ass sword in my car. Dude, I had to figure out the most optimal strat in order to figure out how to take that sword in and out. Because putting it in was one battle, taking it out was another. Because I had to push the front two seats forward, flatten them, put the sword in at an angle to make sure that like the horns on the side like don't poke out or anything. I didn't want it to fold up. It was just a whole hassle. But anyway, I figured out a way to put it in, but it was very time consuming. Finally, I was able to take it home. But that wouldn't be the last my college would ever hear of my giant sword. It waited in the corner of my room patiently, menacingly, waiting for the day to be called into battle once again. Fast forward towards the end of the semester, where my college was hosting a student art show, where they would like show a bunch of different works from like all the different like art programs, like photography, painting, life drawing. And my instructor like really encouraged me and a bunch of other people to actually like submit our works to it. And I was definitely down for that. I returned to school with my glorious armament, ready to take it to the gallery for everyone to see. The gallery was in the middle of the campus, and when I arrived that day, I was in one of the parking lots at the very edge of the campus. And so in order for me to actually take my project to the gallery, I pretty much had to walk across half the entire school. And that was like a bit of a journey. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit nervous, but after I took that first step, it all fell into place. The amount of people's heads that turned that day, oh my god, dude. It was so much fun. So many people's heads turned, a lot of people took photos, people just looked at me and they're like, yo dude, you're the protagonist. I was like, yeah dude, tell me something I don't know. I was more than happy to let people hold it, let them wield the power for themselves. Dude, I was stopped like multiple times on the way to the gallery. And dude, that just made my day, dude. I dropped it off at the gallery and it stayed there for a few weeks. And there was also this after-school awards show where the faculty would have voted on the best pieces for each category. And yeah, dude, that was like a whole big event. A lot of people showed up. I was there, a bunch of my friends. My project didn't win any awards, surprisingly. That's probably for the best. They knew if they gave me any award, they'll have to give me first, second, third, and honorable mention. So if they decided to just let somebody else win, actually. Like, mine was by far the best of everybody's. So it was more like, give somebody else a chance. Once the award show ended and the gallery was starting to close down, every single person who submitted a piece was gonna have to take theirs back. I tried picking it up one time at the end of my day after I'd done all my classes. But when I got there, the door was locked and there was no one there who I knew who could have unlocked it. So I pretty much just had to like leave instead of picking it up. And so I had to pretty much pick it up the next day because I just wanted to basically just get my sword back. I want it back now. It's mine. I returned the next morning and yes, the gallery was open. I picked it up and I was about to go on my way. And then I realized that class is in like less than 10 minutes and I don't have enough time throughout the day to actually like work and put my sword back in my car. So what am I gonna do? I don't want to leave it in the gallery because like who knows if it's gonna get locked again, and I don't really have another spot to leave it in. So my only option was really just to walk around with it all day and just take it to my classes. And let me tell you, man, the guts theme might as well have been playing as I walked around because, dude, I just embraced it this time. There was like no hiding it. Dude, this sword is bigger than me. Walking in through doors was actually a problem. And dude, it was actually so goddamn funny. So this time, I actually walked around the entire day. It wasn't the last time, it was just like the morning and like one little quick trip to the gallery. This time, nah, dude, I had no excuse. I had to walk around all day to my classes carrying a big-ass sword. And dude, it was awesome, man. You can imagine how a classroom full of college students would react to a guy just walking in with a big-ass sword. Dude, that's why I walked in and I was like, oh, hey, what are you guys looking at? basically at the end of each one of my classes, I just gave a little lecture because people just wanted to know why the hell did I bring this giant ass sword into class for no reason. I let people hold it. More people took pictures of it. People want to know, like, what was the design behind it? Like, why did you give it giant horns? And I swear, each one of my classes was exactly like that. People were just dumbfounded by what the hell is this guy just doing, but I love it. And the professors, let me tell you, they were just as enthusiastic as the students. They were not bothered by it at all. They actually wanted to know just as much as the students did. And especially my history teacher, she was the one that stood out the most because she mentioned that she also had like a bunch of other students throughout the years that would just bring in their projects into class. But this is the first time that her jaw just dropped because of the sheer size and what the hell the student just brought in. Yeah, that was just very funny. And in between my classes, I would just walk around the campus, like, just turning people's heads because I loved it. I loved the attention that it gave me. And I'm not ashamed to say this. That day, I wore a hooded jacket. And just to go even further, I put my hood up so people wouldn't see my face. They would just see a guy walking around with a giant sword. It's like, dude, this guy knows he's the protagonist. This is his world, and we are just living in it. A day could only last for so long. Eventually, I had to pack up and go home. And not gonna lie, dude, that was honestly, unironically, a very proud day for myself. Because I came home and I was like, damn, I really was the protagonist today. And everyone else knew it. It was awesome. And now, like, my giant sword is in the middle of my room. It's sitting in one corner, menacingly, waiting for the day for it to be called into battle once more. And yeah, that's the whole story. Thanks for watching.